Joining us now, Secretary of State for the great state of Mississippi, Michael Watson. Good morning there, Mr. Secretary. Thanks for joining us today. Might be on mute there, Mr. Secretary.
I was.
No, yeah, there we go. All right. Thanks for joining us.
Great to be with you, my friend, always.
You bet. So we got elections coming up, primary elections, hard to believe, for U.S. Congress. Less than a month away, right? June the 7th. Right. Is that the right date? June the 7th.
June 7th is the right date. And we've got a couple others, the Mississippi Levy Board Commission.
Yeah.
Counties that have that coming up as well. So those are both on June 7th, the primary, and then obviously back in November, we'll be back again for the general.
Right. All right. So, and some states have already been having their primaries. We see the reports almost daily of the results from there. Ours, again, in the state of Mississippi coming up on June 7th. So I'm sure you guys are ready. Your office is ready. I know you're in constant contact with the folks in charge of elections out at the county level, elections commissioners, the clerks of the county and so forth. Everything looks good at this point?
Yeah, we've had no complaints so far, and we're having, obviously, weekly updates, and we want to make sure that we're in touch with our clerks and commissioners, as you just said. And yesterday I was in the Delta visiting with some of our clerks, and so we're continuing our 82 county tour to be in touch with them, making sure that, again, the open lines of communications are important. Those relationships are important, and so we're building those and continuing to work closely with them each and every day.
What are the key dates, Mr. Secretary, with respect to early voting, absentee voting, registering to vote? Inform our audience, please.
Yeah, so we just passed the voter registration deadline last Monday, so that one is passed. You can absentee vote now. Obviously, we'd have to meet the conditions to do that. The last day to absentee would be in person at the clerk's office on June 4th, which is that Saturday right before the election there. And you have to be in by noon on that day. If you're voting absentee by mail, it has to be postmarked on election day and received within 5 business days, which was one of the changes that the legislature made in 2020. So that still is in statute. And those are basically what's out there right now. So again, just encourage folks to study your candidates, make sure you're prepared to go vote, and let your voice be heard.
And what is the law in the state of Mississippi with respect to verification of the authenticity of a mail-in ballot?
Yes, so we have resolution boards that folks go in and check those signatures. Obviously, that's something we got to make sure we're paying close attention to. And again, people have a lot more attention on elections these days based on 2020. So we want to make sure we're checking those signatures, the verification. They have to sign a couple of forms, and so all those signatures have to match, and that's an important piece.
Is that done by human or is that automated, the signature verification?
It's done by human here in Mississippi.
Okay.
There are some states that do the automated. It's something that we could possibly look at, but again, I think human eyes on it, making sure that we're looking at closely and having that open to the public. That's another important piece, Jordan, that people need to know. When those resolution boards go in and check those things, need to make sure that, hey, look, we can go see that. Having the public inspection is a piece.
Yeah. All right. So the statewide election system, there seems to be some information floating around in the public regarding the statewide election system that might not be totally accurate. Help us out with that.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And one of the things that we've seen, and we started this campaign, the National Association of Secretaries of State, back in 2020 for the election there, and trusted information. And that's very key with elections, and there's obviously enough questions going around, so we don't need misinformation out there. You see that coming in from out of the country more times than not, from Russia, from Iran, from China, as we've talked about before. And so, unfortunately, sometimes that happens here at home as well. We started seeing some questions a couple of weeks ago about Ukraine being involved with the statewide election management system, and that is absolutely false. Unfortunately, folks were going out and saying that, and we had an individual that was giving speeches, as I understand, around the state and mentioning that in her remarks. And so I wanted to get to the heart of that, and we got our team together, did all the research. We wanted to make sure we could disprove that, and we did. And there was actually a company that had a website up, and we talked to the company, and they took the website down. So there was some information out there that was false. And I think it's important that we're actively investigating those issues and making sure that the public knows. Look, if you've got a question, if something looks suspicious, reach out to us, reach out to your circuit clerk or to your elections commissioner. Those are the folks that know elections, know the law, and that's where you get your trusted information.
Yeah, well, thanks for clarifying that. So I didn't know that there were individuals that were actually making these statements in public about that. Yeah, that's not good to hear, and appreciate you clarifying that. And that's why we want to have you on, is go to, as they say, the horse's mouth, rather than jumping to conclusions, which is what all too many people do if they see it or hear it anecdotally or even informally in those situations. You and I have talked. Sure. Yeah.
There was another one out there that was basically saying, listen, the counties can audit their elections. That's not true either. And so when we started seeing some of these things going around, again, I just hope folks, when they have questions, audits obviously were a big topic of conversation. When they have questions, please reach out to us or your circuit clerk so we can give you the trusted information.
Yeah.
Because when people undercut elections and folks don't know who to trust, then we have problems. And I think it's very important that we get that message out there.
Absolutely. Go to the source for the information and not third-hand, third-party. I totally agree. Or even worse, from something you see on the dadgum internet as well, and heed that as gospel, because it's usually not. You and I have talked before concerns about the accuracy of the voter rolls. I know we talk about it every time, but it's important. It's impossible to have free and fair and accurate elections when you start out with rolls of voters that are not accurate right off the bat.
That's exactly right. And it's one thing that we continue to work with our commissioners and our clerks on. And look, in some of these meetings, in these 82 county tour that we're doing, some of them have gotten a little bit tense. And we talk about that. Hey, make sure you're doing your job and keeping these voter rolls maintained. It's very important. So we're going to continue talking to them, working with them, encouraging them, and sometimes prodding them to make sure they do that job. And I think the important part, again, is, Gerard, making sure that the voters know whose job is what. So when you talk about voter roll maintenance, those are the elections commissioners in your local county. That's their number one job, to make sure those voter rolls are clean. So if you go to our website, and now obviously we have the information up on our website, and you track your county to see what those numbers look like. If it's getting pretty bad, then you need to go talk to your commissioners and say, hey, look, do your job. It's important that we have clean rolls. Nobody wants election fraud. It happens. It's real. And if somebody tells you it's not real, they're lying to you. But the best way to get a hold of that and get that under control is making sure we've got clean voter rolls.
Yeah. So we have some counties that are still using machines for voting, and some that are using paper. Some using scanning technology, which is paper that is scanned and tabulated. Lots of questions. You said at the top of the interview, folks have paid probably more attention to the elections process and the mechanics of it after 2020, probably more than the history of our country. What's your thoughts, and what can you tell our audience about what your office and what the counties are doing to ensure those machines are accurately recording votes, secured, not getting hacked and connected to the internet and so forth?
Well, number one, we do right now on these machines conduct testing prior to make sure they're accurate. That too is open to the public. I think that's an important part to announce as well.
Okay.
But more importantly, moving forward, and about 60% of our electorate right now vote on paper ballots. And those ballots are then scanned, as you mentioned before. So if there's ever a question, you can go back to the paper ballot to make sure, hey, I can hand count these paper ballots. I can look at the votes, making sure that these things are accurate. We've got the rest of our state, the other counties that have not transitioned yet to those new machines. The legislature this year passed a great piece of legislation, basically appropriating about $5,000 per precinct per county for these counties to go to these new machines, again, with a paper verifiable trail. I think that's so important, Gerard, and really appreciate the legislature moving forward with that. Something that we advocated, obviously, have been trying to get that done since 2020. Going into the, matter of fact, the session prior to the election in 2020, we started asking, hey, look, we need new machines. We want these paper-based, verifiable trail machines so we can institute more trust or put more trust into the system.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, I think it's a good idea as well. Just final thought I'll pass on. We got about a minute left. Is I still have concerns about the county voter rolls being subject to breach and hacking. It's important that they have all the IT protections on their systems and the cybersecurity protections to avoid that, prevent that.
Yeah,
And I know
absolutely.
you talk to them about that all the time.
We do. We talk to DHS, National Guard. We partner with all of our security agencies to
Yep.
make sure that our counties have what materials they need, what services they need. Again, cybersecurity is very important to us.
Appreciate it, Mr. Secretary. Always good to talk to you. We'll talk soon. Thanks.
Thank you, everybody.
See you. We'll be back on midday. Stay with us.